Let's just jump into it. All right. Fun time on Sunday. Lions fall to the Rams by a score of 41-34. Final score, however, does not indicate how not close this game was, especially in the second half. This game was so utterly demoralizing. To go from up double digits, with 30 seconds to go in the second quarter, to then scoring no points in the third quarter and giving up 17 unanswered is actually 24 or 20 unanswered, I should say, because they had the field goal at the very end. It's just not acceptable. And that goes as much on the players as it does on coaching. But there are some positives to take away from this game as far as the players go. Jared Goff played a really good game. I mean, even in a loss, 90 quarterback rating, 111 rating, played a better game than Matthew Stafford did. I'll tell you that much. 3 touchdowns for Goff, 338 yards in the air, no picks, sacked just once, wasn't sacked at all in the first half. He played a really solid game. Got over 100 yards to the two top receivers on this team in Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Saint with 2 touchdowns, J-Mo with 1. Could have had a bomb to him in the third, or a bomb to Jamison Williams in the third quarter if J-Mo doesn't drop that ball. And also there maybe should have been defensive pass interference, but I digress. We're getting into the good stuff. So that's about where the good stuff ends because the Lions couldn't establish the run. They ran just total of 70 yards. Neither Gibbs nor Montgomery really were having great games. Montgomery did have the 1 rushing touchdown on the Wildcat formation trick play. I mean, if you want to count that, sure. I guess it technically counts, but yeah, it was a rough day on the ground. And this is really the theme with this team. If they can't run the football, they're probably not going to win the game. Barring like the other team turning the ball over or otherwise giving up huge field position, if the Lions can't run the football, they're just not going to be able to win because they're just not going to control time of possession. And the opponent's going to have the football for much longer because you're just going to have to dunk and dime and throw the ball, and clock's going to get stopped every incompletion, if there are any. It's not good. And it's funny because the Lions didn't turn the ball over at all offensively. They got a turnover. Aiden Hutchinson with an amazing pick could have gone for 6. But that's about where the good ends. Because this defense is just, once again, costing this team wins. And look, Jack Campbell was good. 10 solo tackles for him. Everybody else, I guess Aiden Hutchinson had a pick. But outside, I mean, even then, he didn't do that much. He had a sack on the day, I guess. Yeah, everybody else was a no-show. Al-Qadim Muhammad was a no-show. Tyleik Williams, basically a no-show. Marcus Davenport, I'm going to be honest. I forgot that Marcus Davenport came back. Apparently he's been back since the Green Bay game. I forgot he was back. I think the team might have forgot he was back. But this secondary is just decimated. You're putting out Rock Yassin and Amik Robertson as your top, as 3 of your top corners. It's just not going to work. People make fun of Terrion Arnold. I think Terrion Arnold is certainly an improvement from Rock Yassin, and he was showing signs of improvement, but with the injuries and whatnot, it doesn't look good for him at all. DJ Reed is basically your best corner, and as good of a player as he can be, he's not Ed Reed. He's not Ed Reed. He's not going to just like completely lock down a receiver. It's not going to happen. And as much as I might like the effort from guys like Avonte Maddox, again, you're down 2 of your top safeties against an elite wide receiver room in LA. It's just not going to work. These guys are not going to help you. You're going to have to come up with the turnovers. You're going to have to be perfect on offense, and they weren't perfect on offense. Just like the thing that boggles the mind is the Rams were able to make the adjustments to stop the Lions offense in the second half. The Lions have failed to make any adjustment to stop the Rams in any way. They didn't adjust to the adjustment of the Rams. They kept basically whatever the offensive play calling or strategy was. They never altered it. They just kept it exactly the same and allowed for the Rams to just feast on you. And it doesn't help. And I know this is sour grapes to a lot of people, but I do have to bring it up. It doesn't help when the Lions feel like they got to play two opponents. All right. I don't care who you're playing. If one team gets just one penalty the whole game, and that penalty comes in the fourth quarter when the game is pretty much out of reach anyway, it makes one raise the eyebrow, and especially given the age that we live in with sports betting and with players getting caught gambling on games that they're involved in, looking at you, Emmanuel Clase, and plenty. I mean, heck, the Lions aren't unfamiliar with sports betting having an effect. Jameson Williams himself has been suspended for such actions. Granted, not on NFL games, but needless to say, the officiating in this game was just absurd. I mean, that touchdown from, I don't even know, what was the name of the tight end? Landman? Was that him? I don't even know. No, that wasn't him. He's on the defense. I'm looking at the wrong guy. Parkinson? Colby Parkinson? I mean, I don't understand if I'm a dummy, but I was born and raised under the belief that knee down, ball not in end zone, not touchdown. Apparently, the referees in Los Angeles, California disagree. Apparently, you can have your knee down and apparently not have control, which means that it should have not been a catch then. I don't know how that... Just absolutely pathetic. Just a complete mismanagement of the officials. And, you know, it's another one of those things that adds to a bad day in the office for Detroit. You know, again, I'm not saying it cost them the game. It definitely didn't cost them the game. What cost them the game is giving up 2 fourth downs that they very well could have gotten stops and had a chance to go up double digits. What cost them the game was up 10, 30 seconds to go, giving up a 20-second field goal drive. And what cost them the game was going 3 and out after they forced the Rams to kick a field goal when they could have gone up 10 again and really put the pressure on LA. You know, that's what cost them this game. Okay? They couldn't get the stops when they needed them, and the offense in the second half completely imploded. And the play calling was questionable at best. So you can't take the game back, okay? You can't go back and relitigate it, okay? The game happened. Lions lost. You got 3 games left. You got Pittsburgh at home. You got Minnesota on the road on short rest. And you got Chicago on the road on 10-day rest. Lions are basically going to have to run the table, and if they don't, that's pretty much it. And it would be, in my opinion, and I've made this clear, one of the great travesties in Detroit sports if this team goes from 15-2, number 1 seed, division champs, you know, best record in franchise history, to missing the playoffs the following year. I know that they lost their all-pro, potentially Hall of Fame center. I know that they've lost multiple all-pro level players to injury. They haven't had Kirby Joseph since the Chiefs game. They lost Brian Branch for the rest of the year. They lost Christian Mahogany for a significant portion of this year. You know, they lost their offensive coordinator. They lost their defensive coordinator. They lost a variety of position coaches. I know their wide receivers coach was a coach they lost. They lost a lot in the offseason. What they can't lose is their ability to go to the playoffs. They are just too talented. They have too many good players on this team to mismanage them in such a way to not get yourself into the playoffs. I mean, heck, the Eagles just a couple of years ago made the playoffs going 9-8. And they didn't do much with that, obviously. And frankly, as much as I would be upset with that being the ending of the season, I will take that because at least that means, okay, we can still make the postseason. We can be one of the 14 teams that could win the Super Bowl that year, technically. And if we can't even make that, and to make matters worse, if we are losing out to one of the teams who stole one of our coordinators in the Chicago Bears, frankly, that is an embarrassment on the franchise. And you just can't have it. You just can't have it. But here's the thing. If you win out, all is forgiven. You go 11-6. Granted, worst record in since 2022, which is, still a better record than that year. And you probably have, if you went out, you got about a 90+% chance to make the playoffs. Right now, you're sitting at about a 40% chance. So they obviously, the odds makers obviously don't foresee you running the table. But that doesn't mean you can't. I mean, Pittsburgh, they won last night. They're going to be on short rest coming into your house. Okay? And they are not a good team. Okay? They're not good. But you got to handle business. Aaron Rodgers has done some magical things in Ford Field. Handle business. Then you got Minnesota, short rest. Minnesota looked pretty good against Dallas, and they already beat you this year. I'm sure the Lions want to get revenge as much as anybody. Then you got Chicago to end the year. Just get the job done. If you are one of the premier organizations in the NFL, which I believe the Lions are, then you win these 3 games, you make the postseason, and that's it. So it's disappointing that it has to come down to this. Frankly, we should have already clinched the playoffs. But, that's what happens when you lose games early to teams like Minnesota, teams like Kansas City, that you frankly should have beaten. Those 2 wins, you would be in by this point, pretty much. But you're not. So, go and silence the doubters. Hey, YouTube, if you like clips like that, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. We've got live shows every Tuesday night. Hope to see you there.